how can I meet this person online and how did I not see the red flags, like unsolicited pictures, also like sexual abuse.
There's a discrepancy between who they are online and the actual behavior in real world.
30% of those like rape cases are from online dating app meetups, coercion into a situation where you don't have another choice. Actually, you are being put in that situation where you sometimes can't make a wise choice.
So they kind of give you that pressure.
Starting to blame myself and not sharing and not being able to talk about it means I'm suffering alone.
Reprocess your emotion and also empower yourself as well.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of HeyJuni Unplugged. We have Pradnya and we have Nora again today at this table. Thank you guys for coming back.
A pleasure.
And the topic that we will be talking about today is very much related to the last one. It's about online dating violence. So if you feel that this is a topic that interests you and the things that we share are relevant, then leave us a comment below, subscribe or like our video. So when we think about online dating violence, what's the difference between online and offline? Is there any difference?
I think for online, it could be more persistent because it could be anywhere at any time. For offline, mostly like you have to find time and then to be in the same place and see each other in person. But online, it could be anywhere.
I think to add on, like it's also the aspect of anonymity and like the concerns of like whether the person that you're talking to is real or fake. Yeah, sometimes like there might be a risk of like that the person that you are talking to is not who you think it actually is. Adding on to the aspect of like anonymity, like the other part which is different about like online versus physical is that it's getting more prevalent now in this digital era. So as much as we see, you know, like the digital era as like a new form or platform to socialize with people, make new connections, even perhaps like get into new communities. Yeah. So, but it also brings with it its own risk. Yeah. And that's something that we need to be aware about. Yeah.
And I think also the mispresentation, because like you mentioned about anonymity, being anonymous online, but also sometimes people can find the idealized picture to represent. So it could be they Photoshop, or it could be they use somebody like the good-looking pretty woman or handsome guy's picture to represent themselves online, and also they can rephrase what they say, so their behavior they show online might be different. There's a discrepancy between who they are online and the actual behavior in real world.
While there are definitely like some differences, and I mean we can dive into the differences in a bit, but the similarity between online and offline is more on the emotional and psychological side, right? Because of course, like you can have a relationship offline or in person, but when it comes to you know, like the online interaction aspect, then you know you can't have physical violence, but emotional and psychological violence still exist there, still persist there, and might even be more intense, right? The continuous digital terror that you know someone might face, and I feel like especially you know online when you think about you know, let's say you have a personal relationship before, you are in touch with that person physically, but when you end the relationship, the online harassment, the online abuse can continue.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I think just to add on to your point as well, like the abuse, like it may not just be happening online, but like the online methods and platforms can be like a means to the abuse.
Yeah.
So like people might tap on social media, tap on other platforms like even our text messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Telegram to continue this harassment. Or if it's like a new person that they are meeting, they use this and then if they, you know, have been using it as a form of like a fake persona, these platforms provide a means for them to like facilitate the abuse in a sense. So like what they call like tech facilitated abuse or violence. Yeah, I think that's another risk that we need to be mindful of. Yeah.
Because when you think about it, there could be not just like texting and continuous like terror through texting, but there could be also some video materials of you that, you know, the abuser can use to,
Well, even in a relationship, they may secretly spray
revenge.
those pictures into other group that you don't know, or they can publish your pictures on everywhere. I'm gonna share your pictures with other people.
Because there's so much shame and stigma surrounding the issue, you may not even know like how to protect yourself or what you can do to protect yourself and like how to react.
Right. Because you might not know where that person is, and if you call the police, what the evidence and how are they able to track down that person?
But even if you call the police and report, right? It doesn't mean that it's taken down immediately.
Right.
It's still there.
Right.
It's still there, and it still lingers around, and it still affects your emotional well-being, because you know that, you know, you reported them to the police and you did something about it, but nothing actually happens. The video, the materials are still there. You're still being shamed and you're still being harassed, right? And even if, let's say, the police or, you know, like the law concludes as this is as you know, abuse. This is this needs to, I don't know, like the person who is the perpetrator needs to be punished. Even then, the material could be like already shared thousands of times, and it still lingers around on the internet. So your suffering doesn't end there.
Right.
And you can't possibly be online on all websites, always monitoring. I think that adds to the sense of fear and loss of control. So there have been several cases of revenge porn where they found the material and then they requested the website to remove it, but it was published online on other websites, or it went up like the following day or the subsequent day. So it's very difficult.
Or even through personal private channel.
Exactly. That's even worse, because if you think about it, if this lingers around on the internet somewhere where strangers see that fake material, fine. Like, I mean, if it was me, right, I'm thinking, fine, then it's just how it is. But what if my friends, like the people around me, they saw it? And what if my family sees it? What if, you know, maybe my community, my workplace, like, you know, my colleagues, like, but there will be some people that might still like judge me, question and doubt me, right? So this is a very painful thing that just like continues to haunt me, instead of me being able to make a clear cut, this is the end, and I'm not going to be bothered by it anymore. And I mean, this is an extreme case, of course, but looking at more like everyday kind of online abuse that, you know, a person of, you know, a woman faces, I feel like there's more to just, you know, like being, you know, harassed in a very extreme way, as in revenge porn. And let's say, you know, you meet someone online through a dating app, then you embark on this relationship and you're together online. You haven't met physically, maybe. So because you are online, you feel like you have to provide more information about yourself. I feel like, you know, sometimes it's harder to set like clear boundaries.
Right. Or they would say, you know, we are not in the same city, we are online dating, and you need to show me your loyalty, you love me, and you need to share your password of your social account password, right? And so that I can have access to your emails, to your social account. And if you don't do it, then like, are you dating somebody else too? So they kind of give you that pressure to show the love, and which is also a form of abuse.
Yes. And it's not as tangible as physical abuse. And you don't see clearly that it is actually abuse. Whereas if you are in a relationship where you meet in person and you get physically harmed, then it's very clear this is abuse.
Right.
But in this case where it's like only purely online, it's not very tangible. It doesn't feel very obvious to you that it is actually abuse.
I think, like again, you know, like what we shared about in our previous episode about like the cycle of violence, it always starts off seemingly innocent and like, oh, I want to know, you know, where you are so that I can feel closer to you, so that we can find a common time to meet or common place to meet. And then like slowly it becomes like, oh, how come you're here with this person? And you may not even know that this person has been tracking you. Yeah, it started off seemingly innocent from like a desire to be more intimate through online means, like in whichever way possible. So being online also comes with the risk of like availing yourself to harm, in the sense that first of all, you may not know if this person is real and what the intent is, whether it's malicious. So I have heard of acquaintance who got into a love scam, from a person who they met online. So because like I think when they met online, this person is checking all the boxes, and they really have this hope. Like
the illusion.
Yes, maybe I have found the person of my dreams. And a lot of effort put into the relationship by the other party as well. Engaging them every day with in the morning, at night, good morning texts, night calls. So there's that sense of intimacy and that illusion of a relationship and closeness forming, which then, you know, makes one more vulnerable to divulging like more personal details, like even passwords, bank account details, because now you have a relationship with this online persona, and you want to, like you see like the hope of a relationship with a loved one.
So it's kind of slowly you are kind of losing the boundaries for a woman. Maybe she is lonely and she feel like I finally found something online. She put her heart, her trust.
I think the loneliness part is the key here. I'm going to put my trust in this person. I think I can trust him. It's okay to risk that rather than being lonely. I've been lonely for so long. I think this is a type of relationship where there was no physical attachment, or not attachment, but like a physical interaction before. So a whole relationship for that woman is based on hope, you know, like a picture that she draws. And it's formed by her being lonely. And she just hopes, you know, for this to work.
Like even if you block that person can make another account,
Yeah.
can text you on your other social media, can email you. The modes of harassment increase. And the fear exponentially increase alongside with it.
What are the signs like someone should look out for early on to identify, you know, like whether this person is an abuser or not?
I'm speaking from the context in which you probably start meeting this person online, so you don't know them beforehand. So I think in this context, like I think it will be important to do like your due diligence to check, you know, like search about this person online, check with mutual friends, like if it's an acquaintance, just to make sure that this person is who they say they are. And I think going with your gut feeling, also like, if you plan to like take this offline, meeting up with them in a public space in daytime, I think these are like certain things that you can do to protect yourself.
So what if you did all of that already and the relationship continues and you don't see like obvious red flags at that point? What are the other things you can look out for to kind of like understand whether this could go into a wrong or right direction?
I think another thing is, do you feel that person is trying to control you? How can you go out with your friends, but I can't, I'm so far away, can you share more? So I think that's and then can you not go out with the friends? Can we just talk on the phone? And so I think when you start to feel that he, due to the jealousy or control, trying to limit you, I think that, of course, in a healthy relationship, we compromise as well, right? But when you feel that the level of relationships doesn't match with the level of controlling, then that's a red flag. Yeah. And also the step is the person's trying to isolate you from your friends. Yeah. Right? That means that's not a healthy relationship you have, even though it's an online dating.
Yeah. That element of like secrecy and control, like I think if you see it, and if a person says, don't share about this with your friends, and you are questioning, actually, why not? Like, if this is a trusted person, like my parent or my close friend, why can't I share? And if you feel that you have that kind of sensing of perhaps something is a bit fishy, I think you should probably go with your gut.
That excessive texting or excessive check-ins with you, or the person being very demanding on you, reporting to them throughout like your day, what you do, where you are at, and so on and so on. So this like unhealthy demanding behavior from the abusive partner, I think this is something that we should look out for. Yeah. And I think sometimes it's not just even jealousy, it's really just control. Because jealousy, could be an excuse.
Because you're so isolated, and there is shame in, again, reaching out to the people that you isolated yourself from. Yeah. So I think this makes it even more difficult when it comes to like online abuse as well. Yeah, like there might be, because it can happen to people from all educational backgrounds, all socioeconomic status. So there might be a lot of shame, like I have a degree, I'm working, how can I still fall into a love scam? Or how can I meet this person online and how did I not see the red flags? Yeah.
True. Like online dating and online relationships are now not a kind of like a taboo anymore. There was a time where people don't really like talk about it. Now everyone is open about it, but still there is some level of judgment there. So whoever was the victim, they might not like report about it. There is like like an under-reporting, like the numbers of reports for online abuse is very low because people feel very ashamed to talk about it. They can talk about meeting this other person online, but once the relationship doesn't work or they are facing some troubles or abuse, they don't talk about it because they feel ashamed. And
because nobody really talks about it, so you don't really have anyone to like get some guidance or advice from.
Right.
Yeah, I think because people are shameful about it, so then like everybody just keeps their story to themselves.
Right.
Yeah, but actually there are people going through this, and it is happening more and more.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's step back onto the online dating. What do you assume, or what do you think is the most prevalent type of abuse?
You are in a sincere looking for a sincere relationship, but the other person may not. Yeah, and they may not be the person that they claim to be. Yeah, so I think that's part of abuse too.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they have a term for it now, right? Catfishing. This person who is called like catfishing you, like they presented themselves as someone else. Either like they use a completely different identity, or sometimes it's them, but them like 10 years ago. So actually now they look completely different. They are doing something completely different, but they are using like an older version of themselves or altered version of themselves. And that is not what you signed up for. Yeah. So you might come in with a sense of betrayal, but then like sometimes you might still go ahead with it because of you don't want to like offend, or you want to like generally be seen as a good person. So I think one thing is I think like what Nora mentioned, like the the part about the fake identity, catfishing. I think also like sexual abuse, like unsolicited pictures. People go on the dating apps. There are different groups of people. So some people like go on it to find a meaningful connection, a relationship. But some they might just be looking like for like somebody that they might want to like flash to. Yeah. So and I mean if it's like uncalled for, it can be considered as harassment. Yeah. And I think the other part of it is also like I mean, so like this is a person that you met online and everything is going well. And yes, this person is a real person. And then you go out with the person and then like on the first date, like something happens to you, like that you are sexually assaulted. I think that does happen, and I think there have been rising cases of that, like where often like the sexual assault happens on like the first date, or when people like go out, like a lot of sexual assault that is reported can be like from dating apps as well. Like when we should not resort to victim blaming, because nobody puts themselves in that situation to be assaulted. But in that moment, they might not have control over the situation, and no one asked for it.
Yeah. And I also read a study somewhere that out of like, I think it's a study in the US, and I'm not sure, I think it was Utah. And out of the, like, I think the 2,000 cases of rape that was reported, 30% of those like rape cases are from online dating apps, meetups. Yeah. So it's like you said, you engage with someone, you like this person, it's a real person, and you want to meet up, and of course you have hopes that this is not just going to be, ended up as a date, but maybe it's going to be a boyfriend, right? And you open up and you are very, very sincere, but then meeting up with that person, you expose yourself to a risk of being sexually harassed. Or maybe sometimes it's not like obvious that it's like you are forced into, a sexual intercourse, but you feel like, you have hopes that this might work, so you want to please that other person, so you actually do something that you don't feel comfortable with, right? And that's also a form of, I wouldn't say like obvious abuse or harassment, but it's a bit of coercion into what you don't want to do, and you are put into that situation where you don't have another choice actually. Like going on a date, the guy would buy you fancy dinner, or maybe bring you a gift, and that's when you started to feel like maybe I should return the favor. Like it's just a normal like behavior and thinking. And maybe even I would have that thoughts too if I was this young lady and maybe inexperienced and feeling like, oh, do I owe this guy something? And like you are being put in that situation where you sometimes can't make a wise choice.
I think it comes also to the idea of consent, right? So like consent is like at every stage. So I might consent to like a kiss or a hug, but does not mean that I consent to sexual intercourse. So I think, when we go into it, we are taking a risk of maybe like a known risk of getting to know a stranger, but we are not taking the risk of sexual assault. So I think that's why it's very unfortunate when we hear that, that there are such cases, and they are like quite prevalent as well.
Or even if you are willing to engage in, sex, there's this term called stealthing, where, the guy actually, what is it? Not using, like protective measures, but without your consent.
Or like removes the condom, even though like you have agreed to use it before the act. And like this type of practices like stealthing really like, it causes like a erosion of trust. And like increases the vulnerability of that person even more to, first of all, like, further sexual assault. And also health-wise, like, increases their risk of like sexually transmitted diseases. Yeah, which is not something that people sign up for when they agree to like go out with someone that they met online.
Right. And this is something that is like shameful to talk about. Like that's how the victim probably feels. Like that's how I would feel. Like if I would be in a situation like that, I know that I would, blame myself for being stupid. Like, why did you even, like agree to do this? Why did you end up here? Like I would be starting to blame myself, and it would be very hard for me actually to share and talk about it. And not sharing and not being able to talk about it means I'm suffering alone. And suffering alone is not just like a mental and emotional matter. It's also, like you said, a physical matter as well. What if I get, sexually transmitted disease, and this makes it even more difficult to talk about? This gives me a label, right? So I continue actually to be alone and suffering alone. Thinking about all of what we have talked about, what are the things we need to do? What are the things, if we were in a situation like that, what should we do in order to avoid it, in order to stop it?
I think if it's like harassment from a stranger, probably blocking the person, reporting the account, and then like if it continues, like if the person creates a new account, persistently harasses you, you can report it. I'm sure every country has certain legislation. Like even in Singapore, there's proper laws against like online harms as well as like harassment. Like I think reach out to like the local, sexual assault care center or the helpline, and they will guide you to the relevant resources. So there is help available, but I think the most difficult thing for many people to do is to be aware that that this is a concern, this is a issue, and that not to blame themselves. And I think that's the first step to like recognizing the issue and then subsequently seeking help.
And I think the other thing, like you mentioned earlier about report the account if something happened. I think some dating app are also better, more well structured, and the policy. So I think it's still worth taking some time to go through those policy and terms. I know myself, I don't read those policy and terms. I think, but sometimes we need to go through that if we really want to. That's also a way to protect ourselves, because I do hear that sometimes they are the one that being assaulted or abused. However, when they report it, things turn around and it end up their account are being removed or being blocked. Right. So how can we select or pick the dating app is more structured and more better policy for us to find somebody.
Just if you feel that something is fishy, like because of like the lack of control, increasing demands, harassment, then I think that you can share it with a trusted person, and that trusted person may be able to advise, whether it's something that you should be concerned about.
If you want to really actually stop this abuse, whatever the abuse is, whether it's from an online dating app or whether it is from a relationship you have with someone before, right? I think the first step is actually to really realize that, I'm actually being harassed here, and I need to take matters against it. It is a very big step, because one is that you have to admit that you are a victim. And it's actually not easy, because you don't want to be a victim. You don't want to feel like you are so helpless and you are being abused and someone is taking advantage of you. Like you don't want that truth. That's how I would feel. But taking that step to realize that and to acknowledge that, okay, I am being harassed here and I need to take matters into my hand and do it. And then you said like it's stopping, right? Like you need to stop being engaged with that person. Like don't feed them with like your responses, because they would love to see you kind of like being angry or have a reaction or emotional reaction. So just like stop engaging, right? And then the second thing is
blocking and reporting them.
And report. And I think also document. I think like you need to be wise about like before you even block, document everything so that you have that proof that this person was harassing. Having your evidence. And then reporting, right? And then reporting to authorities, to the police. If you know the person, like report them also to your community and flag them out. I think that's very important. And I think one last step that I would like to add on to this is, when all of this already happened, it's not like it's gonna end. Like we already identified, like the trauma actually goes on. So I would, if it was me, I would actually, like talk about it, because talking about it is actually processing it and come to terms with it, right? So I think if of course, like in an ideal setting, if one is able to do that, I think that it'll be helpful.
Yeah, I think sharing like your story will also increase awareness about different kinds of abuse. And getting people to acknowledge that, hey, this is wrong, this is abuse, and raising that awareness. And perhaps like by sharing your story, you might empower someone else or educate someone else to like get out of that situation that they are in early, hopefully.
And also empower yourself as well. Right? When you are sharing that, you are kind of reprocess the whole situation and to reprocess your emotion. That's a way of empower yourself.
Thank you for joining us on this episode. We hope that the conversation that we had was meaningful to you. If you like what we do, again, comment below and leave us a feedback. If you think there are things that you would like to see more of us talking about, or things that we can improve, always welcome to share as well. We look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully we'll see you again on the next episode. Thank you and bye.
Bye.